Welcome back, everybody, to yet another episode of the ToeJam Disc Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Joe, and today is a really fun and exciting episode that I had not planned for. Honestly, it happened a couple weeks ago, and it's a really funny story, but we are accompanied by Jay of the Westside Discussion. Welcome, Jay.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, fun story, all right? So, Jay and I live maybe 15 miles apart from each other. We play in tons of club events. And I knew him as Jay, and he knew me as Joe. And we just met over this summer. Jay actually is an amazing TD. That's not even sugarcoating it. Like the tournament he ran and the leagues he ran this summer or league, they're phenomenal. So congrats and thanks from the spectator for doing that. But anyways, Jay found out that I ran a podcast, and then lo and behold, I find out that he's running a podcast. So it's really funny. And they're both on disc golf, obviously. So it's really funny how we've kind of hidden from not each other, but I don't really talk about my podcast in public. And I just found out about his. Granted, it's new, right?
Well, I actually just started after listening to yours. So and we'll probably get into this, but I had the plan to do it. But it was after, we played together and I heard your podcast. And I was like, well, shoot, Joe's doing it. I just need to go and do it. So yours was a big inspiration for me to just kind of finally get it going.
Wow. I actually didn't even know that. That's really fun. I know. So there is I didn't know he messaged me for some tips or whatever as when you're getting started. Cause that is a big thing is where do I go and how do I do this, effectively? Cause you want to focus your time on the creativity and not on the editing and the uploading necessarily, if you can make it easier some way. But that's, thank you, man. I didn't even know that I was not inspired you, but gave you some inspiration in some way to do it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. It's all your fault.
It's all my fault. That's hilarious. Well, next you'll be buying, big computers and things like that to make this happen, right?
Yeah.
Full disclosure, things are happening. Anyways,
it's going on.
So this episode, we're going to kind of talk about podcasting just in general, rather than, ins and outs of disc golf, but tell us about the Westside Discussion.
So Westside Discussion, it really started as a project in learning computer programming. So couple years ago, I started learning Python for coding. And if anyone's learning programming, the best way to do it is just to pick a project and build it and do it. So I was just kind of looking around, what can I do? What can I make? And I thought, well, I love disc golf. So I love Westside Discs. What if I just did some kind of code that compiles stuff about their players and ratings and tournaments and things? So I really had no idea where it was going to go, but that's just kind of how it started. I didn't even realize how many tournaments and how many people are on the team. I just kind of made some scripts that compile information for the ratings was, I think, one of the first posts. And then I started doing just tournament results, things like that. And then it kind of grew into more like a sports reporter type thing. So if you think about a lot of sports, there's a reporter who covers maybe all of baseball, right? And then you have a reporter who covers specifically a team. And there's so many places online for disc golf, on Instagram and Twitter, that covers all of disc golf and things that are going on. But there wasn't anything that mainly focused on just one team. And so I thought, well, maybe I can start doing something here. And so that's kind of how it started, and then just grew from there. Started reaching out to the players, getting information from them, getting some insight from them, reporting on their tournament results, and also kind of with rumors and stuff happening for Westside Discs, discs that are coming out, things that are popping up on the website, new releases and things like that. So it's just an all over news type of page for the brand and for the players.
So you're trying to just be a media outlet at that point for Westside. Right. And, it could be a bunch of different things. That's interesting. Wow. It started with coding. I would have never guessed that.
Start with that. And when I made the Instagram page, in the bio, I just put in there podcast coming later, late 2021, right? Just kind of as filler there, just to kind of manifest it into existence. And then here we are at the end of 2021 and the podcast is going.
Wow. So when did you start the Instagram page?
It was earlier this year, but I think February.
Okay.
I think February 14th was the first post.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's funny how we all resort to Instagram. It's I think a lot of podcasts, I see a lot Ono Disc Golf or Parked. What was it? Just Parked. They did a lot of coverage this weekend at USDGC. if you can't tell when we're recording this, it's the day, a couple days after USDGC, but gosh, I think it was the Parked podcast or whatever. And they do a lot of marketing through their Instagram. So it's funny how we all resort to just Instagram.
Just
it's super
starts
fun.
right there and grows from there.
So what have you found to be the hardest? Because I have a list of things, but what is the hardest thing to do when you're starting your podcast, you think, in your eyes?
Oh man. Maybe just kind of growing it, getting the word out there. I mean, we were kind of talking before this, everyone has their podcast lists already. And so people are pretty much filled. So, if you're starting a podcast, definitely want to have something that's unique, that's not like already there, to kind of fill a void for that. And then just bringing stuff each week of value, content each week that people want to listen to and keep coming back for.
I would agree. I think I think a big one for me was figuring out who you are and what your brand means, but also not putting yourself in a box that makes you stick to it, if that makes sense. Like, I think a lot of people early on, they were like, oh, I would love it if you did more hot takes, or I would love it if you came up with an order so then every show is the same thing. And I see the value in that. Like me speaking now, I see the value in that. But I think for me, the biggest thing I needed was, I want to cover stories that not many people are covering. Okay, I interviewed Trash Panda, Jesse from Trash Panda. That's, everybody knows about him at this point. But the cool thing is I just think I don't look at mine as a growth. Like, I don't care if my channel gets big, right? That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for, if I could tell 5 people that didn't know what Trash Panda was about Trash Panda, I think that is something that's super cool, that, I did a cool thing, right? Like, just, me with a couple of others. And that's kind of what this whole thing was about. It's not about getting big. Yeah, it'd be fun to like have a following, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here just to tell people cool stories, or stories that I at least think are cool, and figure it out from there. So I do have some ideas, and I do have some ways I want to grow, but that's not like the purpose of it. I think it was hard to try to figure out, you test out some episodes. If you look at my early content, oh my goodness. I mean, you watch these embarrassing YouTube videos of me and like my friends, and I'm using them as test dummies. I'm like, how am I going to do this? What's your opinion? Things like that.
Let's go around and talk about this.
Exactly. And no credible sources. I mean, once I got AJ Risley on an episode, I was like, no way, that's so cool. But still, it's not here. I'm not here for the following. I'm here to cover the in-betweens of disc golf. It's on my website, headers, or YouTube headers, like, it's everywhere. That's what I think the ToeJam is about, the ToeJam podcast. And I think I would agree with you. It's hard to build that following within that early on. I think another thing that's been hard is like, or maybe let's do this way. What is like is there another thing that you've thought of that's like been kind of rough to start out with?
For the podcast?
Yeah, for the podcast.
I guess maybe as I'm thinking about it, I don't get worried or anxious about it, but think about like running out of things. Like right now, I just put out episode 4 this morning, late last night. Interviewed a player, and so yeah, I can probably get interview most of the players. Everyone's been very friendly and nice to me, and I probably can get them all on to interview. It's like, well, what I do when I run out of players. So by trying to think about that, because I also have some theme episodes in mind, as far as like with Westside Discs go. So as I was saying, like how my Instagram, like how Westside Discussion started, it kind of like grew and evolved over time. Just kind of like trusting that this too can evolve and just kind of go with it. Kind of like you said, like don't get shoehorned into something, just kind of let it take you where it takes you. So I guess not being too concerned with the future of it, but just each episode, do as best as you can with that one, and then when the next one comes, do that one, and just keep going from there.
You said that, I didn't realize how hard it was to really focus on okay, what is this episode going to be on? Like, I was just trying early on, I pumped out content like crazy. I was doing it every couple days, every week. And then it turned into every month because work, and you realize you have a personal life. And then you also want to play disc golf, and then you also, have to do everything else in your life, pay bills, do things like that. And by the time you get home, you don't want to really do things sometimes, because we're human. But I forgot how hard it was to really, like, I would sit and think, like, what am I going to talk about this episode? Because you forget
Right.
what you want to do. And then you realize I'm going to run out of stories. And then I think the more I got into it, I realized every episode is its own thing, like you said, like focusing on that. But then there's things inside of that you talk about, and you realize, wait, I could do another episode on that. And it just keeps going and going and going.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that until, the middle point.
Yeah. Well, so there's a couple episodes I've done so far where afterwards I was like, hey, you mentioned this one thing. Let's do another episode about that,
Absolutely.
here in the future. So the way things kind of like evolve from that. So.
Absolutely. Would you say that you're more of a feature-based podcast then?
How would you define feature-based?
Like what would you categorize yourself? So like when we look at news articles, right? There's sports, there's the news, there's or paper, sorry, I should say, not news articles.
Yeah.
News like sections, there's features, opinions, op-eds, things like that, sports, and each one has a category. So I guess maybe what I'm looking for, like I would say I feature, I don't like putting myself in a box, like I said, but I think I do a lot of features, storytelling. Maybe you could put it in. What would you say right now? Or you're in the early stages?
Yeah, I'm in the early stages now. Kind of the vision I have going into this is looking at, I kind of try to model it after either the 30 for 30, the ESPN documentaries, the True Hollywood stories, behind the music, like those kind of things where I just want to more like storytelling about the individual and finding out about the person. That's how it's kind of been so far. And I know the next few episodes I have lined up are kind of going to follow that as well.
That's super cool.
I don't know. That's my vision for it.
Yeah. No, it's hard. It's hard to like you said, you want to leave yourself some room for growth, but you also want to make sure your identity early on is like,
right.
Hey, I am this right now. And you want to leave it to where you can go, I can be this, I can be this, I can be also like this, but that's going to take time. Right here, right now, this is what you're getting. I think for me, that was hard to tell people, or at least to express.
Yeah.
But I've listened to 2 of your episodes, and I think you do a really good job of staying consistent.
Oh, thank you.
something that I don't always do.
Oh, thank you.
I also like how you are, like, you focus on Westside. Like, I know when I go into your episodes, I know what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah, and so that's what it is right now. Like, it's mainly Westside Disc, and that kind of helps kind of keep a little focus on it, so it doesn't go too far out. Another kind of going back to what you're asking, another thing is like inside the actor studio, those type of questions and interview style. So I try to model after that as well, but focusing on Westside.
Why Westside Discs?
Well, so when I first started, like after and I think I told the story on the podcast, but after my first like real round of disc golf that I played with a buddy, my first disc was like an Innova Spider, I think, like a multi-purpose disc, doesn't have any numbers on anything. I bought it. I was at Hume Lake, and they had a disc golf course there. I bought it and kind of threw that around there. I get back here, go out with a buddy, like, man, I love this. He gave me some discs to use, and like, this is awesome. So I go into Play It Again Sports, just looking through their discs, and I see a queen and a sword from Westside Discs. I had no idea what flight numbers were. Didn't know any of that. They just kind of look like medieval stamps. Yeah. I thought the numbers were some kind of like, artwork to kind of symbolize, strength and, health, those kind of
Pokemon.
Like Pokemon, Dungeons and Dragons, anything that has like, that's kind of ratings on there. Yeah. I thought it was just kind of a gimmick for that brand. I was like, oh, these are pretty cool. And so I got those discs. My personality, I'm a big collector. And I'll collect, and I know that if I don't like focus in on one thing, I just get every disc there was, especially as you start getting more disc golf. It's like, oh, I got to get this disc and this disc and this disc. So I just kept like only Westside Discs. That way I, can focus on, my game, learning some discs instead of like going all over the place. And I just loved the discs. And then, once you start getting more into the kind of the, fandom or other players, kind of expanded into Trilogy. So now I have some dynamic and latitude in my bag, but just kind of like, it was really just there to focus on one brand so I don't go crazy and just buy every disc that comes out.
Are you going? I have two questions. One, I do want to ask you whether or not you see as a player, I don't want to veer too far away from the topic, but as a player, whether you see there's a benefit in having one manufacturer or like very minimal manufacturers in your bag. But secondly, will your podcast, whether you can say this or not, or I think of it also as like a disc golf bag. Is there going to be a benefit of having one manufacturer, or will you expand? Like, I know it's the Westside Discussion. Will you incorporate some Trilogy members as well, like of Latitude or Dynamic?
So I'll answer that one first. I probably will, as it goes. Part of that is probably going to be if I run out of players to interview and things like that. I'll probably reach out. There's a few other players from Dynamic or Latitude, follow the page and interact with the page that way. So I could probably get a hold of them to do it. So I probably will. And also because a lot of the names have already come up on the episodes, yesterday, talking to Jared, he mentioned Eric Oakley and Paige Shue, and some, other players. So there's already been overlap in there. So I think that would just be the natural progression. As far as playing, the benefit to have it in there. So I've been playing for a few years. I still have a lot to learn about disc golf, but I think the answer is it depends on the person and how they play. I mean, discs are discs, and they can only be so different. So if you like throwing Trilogy, but you really want a buzz or a zone or something else, go ahead and add it to your bag if you think that works better for you. I think it just comes down to preference. And for me, as I was saying, like I focused in early just so I didn't go wild and get every disc that comes out.
Absolutely. I think I'm similar. I think a lot of the fans or my fans know that or listeners, maybe they're not even fans, listeners. We're just going to categorize.
They all love you, man.
Why put them in a box if I don't want to put myself in one?
Right.
They know I'm clearly an AGL fan. I like a lot of what they do. A lot of the reason why I did it is one, they are big supporters of the podcast. Not sponsors. We are not affiliated. I mean, why not? Down the line, I'm not.
Yeah,
not shouting out anybody, but just like it shows that I really do believe in that company and they're really awesome, and I think they make a great product. So that's why I started doing it. But I think the podcast could also be. Podcasting is like a disc golf bag in this scenario, like disc golf podcasting. It's like every disc is like an episode, and every episode could flip, turn, fade, go far, right? I mean, it's so crazy what we can do with it, but every disc also has a purpose, every episode. And so it's hard to convey that message to the listeners, but also to fully repertoire or to build your repertoire out. And so I've learned that through this time, like I'm trying to draw this parallel for disc golf and for the podcast. I know my game has definitely improved because I minimized my options. I throw actually like a 50 or like a 40-40-20 bag. So it's only 20 because it's like two discs. One, it's like 40% Discmania and a lot of just the evolution line because the originals weren't available. And I did it this last year, not knowing the fate of Discmania at the time when nobody knew, just coincidentally. And then the other 40 is AGL. And then the last 20 is it's like a Nomad that I just picked up and a Warden just for throwing putters because I couldn't find anything that really felt amazing in my hands. I do throw a Manzanita and other AGL stuff, but I don't like just two specific types of things I want that I expect. Those are like the only things in my bag. Oh, and a fighter. So that falls in that 20 category because a thumber disc, it's the best thumber disc on the market. Just saying there's nothing that does it. And it does what a fighter does. Anyways, though, I think there's a lot to be said about disc golf bags and podcasts. And I think in your scenario, I think you have a lot of good things going your way. So I'm excited to see what the Westside Discussion evolves into.
Yeah, thank you.
So tell us, how can we support you? Where can we listen to you? How do we do this?
Well, so it's Westside Discussion. Everything's the same. Westside Discussion. Look, we're on all the podcast platforms now. You can find them there. Instagram, Westside Discussion. Facebook. There's a Facebook page as well. Anything posted is really going to be on Instagram, and you just subscribe on there. Of course, I haven't asked this on mine yet, but since you asked me, any ratings, if you do, if you like it, give us some ratings, some review. That always, helps other people find it as well, and share it. So if it's an episode that you really liked, share it with one of your friends. Let them know.
Is there any sponsors you have that you want to shout out to?
Yeah, I got a few sponsors right now. Mando Discware, longtime supporter of the page. You mentioned running a tournament. When I ran the Trilogy Challenge, he hooked me up with some stuff for the Players Pack. So Mando Discware and Birdie Fuel Coffee. For both of those, you can use code WSD10 and save 10%. And Putt, the Champ Cap putting tool by Putt Confidently, on Instagram at Putt Confidently. Check them out as well. They're going to be coming out with their Kickstarter later in the year.
That's a super cool thing, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go check out Jay's page or check out it's Champ Cap, right?
Yeah,
on
Champ
Instagram.
Cap. It's
Play confident, Putt Confidently.
The Instagram is Putt Confidently.
Got it.
And then Champ Cap is the name of it. It's kind of like, think of like a sock you put over your disc golf basket, and it's got 4 holes around it, different sizes, 10 inches up to 13 inches. And I've noticed a difference I've been using that for a few months now. I'm going to be doing a review here in a couple months once I get a few things together. But I've noticed a difference in my game. And as the name implies, it really made me more confident.
That's awesome.
In putting, because if you can put it, from 15 feet through a 13-inch circle, you can do a full basket from anywhere. So I'm excited for that to come out. More people get their hands on it.
If you're a golfer, if you've ever played golf, another way of looking at it too is from the videos. It's like using at some golf courses, there's a tiny cup for your golf ball. It's about the size of your golf ball, just a little bigger. If you hit that tiny cup, chances are you're going to hit the bigger cup, the normal standard regulation cup. It's kind of the same idea as that. Yeah. It's just goes over your basket and you can change the sizes. So it seems really awesome. So definitely go check them out. And Jay, if you got to give a new podcaster piece of advice, since you're recently starting this podcast up, what would it be?
I think kind of how you mentioned it earlier, do it for yourself and remember why you're doing it. Whether it grows or doesn't, obviously you want more people to do it. You don't want to just sit in a room and talk to yourself. But when I have these, it's more like I'm just doing it for fun, right? Have fun with it. Once it stops being fun, then who knows how long you're going to keep doing it.
Exactly.
Talk about things that you're interested in. That's like all the questions I've been asking these players are things that I want to know and things that I've always been interested in knowing. And if it's something that you kind of want to know about, then I'm sure someone else would as well. So if it's interesting for you, chances are there's other people that can be interested in it as well. So just keep in mind the reason why you're doing it. So if you want to start it, have a reason for doing it and just keep that reason in mind, whatever that reason is.
Absolutely. I think I agree with that so much because that's the reason why you're going to keep doing it.
Right.
And it's going to make you want to continue to produce content. So that was really good. Thanks for sharing that. Jay, it was awesome having you on this episode.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So like I said, go check out the Westside Discussion. You can check out Jay on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Overcast, all the podcasting platforms. And do you have a YouTube as well? Is that?
Yeah, I think it's at Westside Discussion as well. I put the first few episodes on there just as like the audio version. Yep. Thanks for reminding me. I need to put the other ones up. So it's a great reminder. Got some stuff on there as well. Yeah, YouTube, Facebook. I think it's Westside Discussion for everything. Twitter, Westside Discussion is too long. I don't really post on there, but it's a shorter version. So
awesome. Well,
don't worry about that.
There you go. And don't forget to check out Putt Confidently with the Champ Cap, Birdie Fuel Coffee, and Mando Discware.
Mando Discware. WSD 10, save 10%.
There you go. And as always, go and check out AGL Discs. Use code ToeJam10 at the end of your order to receive 10% off your entire purchase. They have some sweet plastic apparel and honestly, my favorite sunglasses of all time. $10. Who would have thought? So anyways, Jay, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you
And
so much.
everybody else, please check us out, like and subscribe. And please check out our YouTube page. And don't forget the WestNet Collective. Wow, that was very close to your name. The Westside Discussion. The WestNet Collective. It's a new thing. And we're really excited to keep it going. But anyways, thanks for listening, everybody. And we will see you later.
Bye.